What's up guys, Chasing Lemmy here with episode number 14 of our Williams revival here on F1 Manager 22. In today's episode, we are going to be visiting Jeddah in the second season. It's the second round of season number 2. And I feel pretty confident actually that we're going to have a good race because I was doing a little look-see through the performance comparisons for the cars, and if we have a look at what's going on for the Saudi Grand Prix, we'll switch that to rank on grid because that's most important. You can see the top speed is vital, and we are, I say vital, it's recommended, and we're 7th. And medium and high speed cornering, where we sit 5th and 3rd, are also highly recommended, which tells me we might be able to get a few sneaky points out of this one, which would be nice. But we're going to go forward because we've got some manufacturing to have completing and whatnot. I don't think there's anything we need to do on the car immediately, but I'll have a little check in just a second because that's going to be important. Let's have a look, see what we've got. I don't know if I actually was building anything that I don't already have on the car. I think I was just building spares. In fact, I'm going to take it as read that I was building spares because I'm pretty sure that's what I was doing. So we'll go have a look at the performance targets for the race before we go to the inbox. Reach Q3 is a qualifying target. Well, if our target is going to be to reach Q3, we're going to go for reach Q2 as well. Why not? And then we'll stick a qualifying position in here of 10th for one of our drivers. That should give us an extra bit of money boosting. We want a race target of a fastest lap. I'm going to set a race target of getting us in the points, which I know is bold, but I think we can do that. 8th, of course, now is 1 point because of the change in things after last season. Let's have a little look now at our inbox. And in good race preview, Charles Leclerc, of course, leading the Drivers' Championship. Ferrari leading the Constructors after the first race of the season. And just confirmation of what we're expecting. 50 laps, 308 kilometres, a 6.1 kilometre circuit. And we're expecting clear skies for the race, which is pretty good as far as I'm concerned. So, without any further ado, I'm going to go do the qualifying and all that kind of goodness, and then we'll come back and we'll go through the race with full commentary as we go through. So, see you in a second. So after an eventful qualifying, we have found ourselves in 6th and 7th, the full grid being, as you can see in front of you, Verstappen and Leclerc on the front row, Sainz and Perez on the second row. They have got a huge margin to the rest of us. It's quite disgusting. Then Hamilton, Piastri, Pourchaire, Bottas, Alonso, Russell, Ocon, Norris, Gasly, Vettel, Ricciardo, Stroll, Magnussen, Tsunoda, Zhou Guanyu and Alex Albon bringing up the rear, although in lap times wise they've been a couple of seconds off the pace of the leaders, so that's always a worry. But I did realise after I got through all of qualifying and all of that good stuff that I've made a small mistake, because I was using worn parts throughout qualifying, and I'm going to drop a fresh engine in before the race on both cars, and I think we can probably get a little bit closer to the leaders. I think we can find a little bit more speed by doing that. And yeah, everyone's looking good. So weird seeing Seb Vettel and AlphaTauri colours. It's not what I expect. It's very confusing. Anyway, we've got sunny weather, and apparently there are clouds looming that might cause issues, but it's supposed to be dry all weekend. So I'm just going to assume that's going to be a temperature drop. We're not going to worry, I don't think, about rain. We will, of course, check the weather forecast just to be absolutely certain. But I don't think we've got anything to worry about too much in that regard. You can see we've got clear skies predicted for the race. Let's change those parts before I forget, because that's going to... You see how warm. So this went through qualifying, practice, etc. for the last race, and it's been through qualifying and practice in this one. So we're going to replace those parts. We're going to stick a new ERS in, because this is a track where I think we can get some good points as long as we can stay in the fight. So we're going to go with that for both this car and, of course, the other car. We'll get to the compounds and fuel in just a second, because that's going to be important. We need to know we've got enough fuel in the car and other such good stuff. So we'll go and put these parts in, because that way it might feel a bit more like we have a chance of victory today. I think we've done well with such worn parts to get ourselves what we have on the grid, and I think it speaks to the fact we probably could have done a little bit better in qualifying had we done so, or had we done differently. Let's look at the strategies here. So there's a one stop with Piastri, which is probably the fastest way around given how badly He generally performs on tyres. I think we'd probably like to go a little bit later on his stop because he's probably going to be out there, and if we get a safety car, we can figure that out as we go. So that's probably a good plan there. Fuel-wise, I want to put in an extra. Extra 5 laps might work. I'm assuming we're not going to get a safety car. If we do get a safety car, we could be in trouble. We're going to also use our overtake early on because we'll need that. With Porsche, I want to try something a little bit different and see how that stacks up. So we'll go with the same strategy we had with Piastri as a base, but I think we can go onto a set of mediums there. See, I thought Porsche would be able to pull that off, but apparently he can't, which is weird because he's got far better tyre wear than Piastri does. So I think we'll probably go with that, but we will go a little bit longer on that first stint, give him a fighting chance of doing something, and then can we maybe push that a little bit? We'll keep it there, because I don't want to do that. I think we'll be fine. Let's go with whatever gives us the best time. That'll do. We'll play the rest by ear from there. So they're all basically the same strategy. It might be identical strategies having done that. That's fine. We'll put Porsche also onto a full tank, and we're going to go and burn as much fuel as we possibly can as early as we can. We're going to that's going to be our strat. Essentially, overfuel, push, hope for no safety car. We didn't have a safety car last year, I don't think. So we should be okay. We're going to go into the race, and I think if we're very lucky, if we're very good to ourselves, I think maybe we can get ourselves away with having a slightly better day today. One thing I do wish about this game is that there was more variety in Crofty's pre-race commentary. It's always, they've done well, they've done okay, they've done the top half, they've done the bottom half, things are disappointing, whatever. I feel like we could have recorded more dialogue for that, but, you know, I am not in a position to criticise the game's makers because I know I can't do better. So that's that, and we're away on the race. We're going to go on board with Piastri because he's going to be our best hope into turn one. You would have to think we are starting to lose ground really quickly on the cars ahead of us. Not a great start, but I'm going to guess those guys are probably they're not even on soft tyres. There are some soft tyre runners though. Norris could be a threat if he can pull through the field. I don't think he will, but you never know. You never know. We are in the early running, and Hamilton's already making gains. We've been fairly close to Hamilton all weekend, so I think if we can keep up with him, we should be in a good position. Obviously, his first 2 laps are always a little bit crucial for obvious reasons. So the pre-DRS ones, we've got to make sure we stay in range of the cars ahead, stay in the train. Be nice to try and pull Porsche and Piastri away from the train, but Piastri trying to make an early move here on Sergio Perez. Let's see if we can go off board. Perez, it looks like, is on softs, but I'm sure that didn't say he was on softs up top. It says he's on hards, but visually I can see softs on that car. That's not me. I'm sure that's not just me. We'll wait for a better close-up because, you know, we can't really see anything at full speed here, but I'm sure Perez was on softs then, and that feels like we've got bad information. I don't know how best to get a better look at him than trying to see as we go past. But, you know, that's such is life. Sometimes that's how, yeah, that's a red sidewall on that tyre for sure, which means, is there a mechanic in the game where it can kind of mess with what we think tyres they've got? Or is that a glitch? Who knows? Let's go back on board because that's the best way to see what's going on here. Leclerc and Verstappen up top having a fight. Both Ferraris really pulling away from Hamilton, which means we need to get past Perez and pushing onto Hamilton as fast as we can. Because if we don't, we're going to be in real trouble. We're going to be quite far adrift of the podium positions. And this is where the real challenge, because Hamilton isn't faster than Perez. He hasn't been faster than Perez all weekend. He's done well to get ahead of him, but I don't think he can stay there throughout the race. So we either need to stay on the back of Perez and hope he pulls us through, or we need to pass both of them, because Hamilton is now outside of DRS range which puts us in a lot of trouble. Pourchaire doing very well, by the way, managing his ERS as he has done throughout the save so far. And we are not really pulling closer. Let's speed things up a little bit. Otherwise, it will take forever to get through the bit where the passing happens. Piastri getting dropped a little bit by Perez. We need to keep on top of that as we head into the DRS zone. There should be the part of the track where we're fastest, though. Sectors 2 and 3, we should be fastest because there's only one slow speed corner. As long as we can keep up as we come across the line, we should be staying well within range. And that's kind of what I'm hoping for here. Although Hamilton is now a second and a half adrift of Sainz, which means if we get past, we're going to have to do some big pushing. We're just coming up now, I think, to the first DRS zone. So this will be the test for us. Can we get ourselves close enough to make a difference here, to get involved, to maybe get past Perez and then on to Hamilton? That's what we're looking for. I'm trying to remember desperately where the first DRS zone is. Here? Is this the first DRS zone? I can never remember on this track. I think it's not. I think it's just after the next set or the next hairpin. It's not far after this hairpin is at the first DRS zone. Either way, we are still within range. Pourchaire has dropped clear of our DRS, or dropped clear of Piastri's DRS, I should say, which is not the ideal, it has to be said. We really do need to be slightly more involved as the rear wing opens for Piastri. And can he start to make some inroads now on the guys ahead of us? We've got Perez and Hamilton fighting up ahead. Should be another DRS zone coming up round here as well, so we can maybe get more involved. We have no ERS available. That's going to be a problem because this track, I seem to remember, is one where the charging is quite slow. But it's fine. Piastri is on the back as we go on to the main straight. Can he get involved here? I think I'm going to tell Pourchaire to deploy because otherwise he is going to get left behind. He's not going to be able to fight Bottas off if he doesn't, which is going to be a real issue. We are, though, staying in touch with the two guys ahead of us. We have been thoroughly dropped by the top three. We're going to have to do some interesting strategy calls to get back involved in this. I think you'd have to say we are looking at Pourchaire to try and use this first half of the lap to really pull himself away of Bottas, hopefully pull himself back into contention with us as well, because we are going to need that wingman as we go into this next stage of the race, you'd have to say. And things not looking great for Pourchaire. We are heading into a DRS zone. Pourchaire has dropped Bottas. He has dropped Valtteri Bottas. We are back into the fight as best we can be. Rear wing open again. We're going to try catch up with Perez. We've got to stay in touch with these guys because if we don't, our day is done, really. We have a little look up the inside there. Didn't quite get there. No more battery for Pourchaire, but that's fine because he has got himself clear of Russell and Bottas, which is going to be helpful for us long term. Piastri still having a little look at Hamilton, doesn't quite get there. Perez now having pulled clear of Hamilton will probably help us a little bit too, because I think Perez can start to drop Hamilton, and if he can drop him just enough that we can get DRS and Hamilton can't, we are going to be in a golden position, because that little bit of overspeed might be the difference between keeping us in touch with Perez, but also keeping us ahead of Lewis, which is ultimately the goal when we look at things. And top 8 is the goal for the race, of course, but we do need to do something slightly better, I would think. We should be in with a chance of some good points today. And with the developments we've got on the car, towards the back end of the season, we should be looking really good. I think Monza is going to be a really big race for us this year. And we're back, start, finish straight. We have dropped Pourchaire quite significantly, but Pourchaire's staying ahead of Russell. So that's still okay. And Lewis and Perez are going to start fighting as well, which is going to be nice because we do have to do something about that. And if they start fighting properly, we will get kept in the fight, if not drawn into the fight. Although it looks like Perez starting to find that little bit extra to pull himself away. It's fine. We're going to stick where we are. Stay in this train. I think I'm going to drop down to a harvest on the ERS for a lap or so, or at least as long as we are still still in touch with Lewis because we are going to lose touch a little bit just by virtue of not using the ERS. But I think if we can stay close enough for a lap or two to recharge the ERS to keep ourselves, give ourselves a bit more to push through and fight with, we should be in a good position. And I do want us to push through and fight. That's kind of why we're here. We're not here to sit in sixth. We're not here to rest on our laurels. We are here to try and really be involved in this fight for the big points. It looks like it's going to be a straight fight again between Ferrari and Red Bull for the championship, at least this season. It looks like our fight again is going to be with Mercedes in the constructors, but that's not something I'm overly worried about as long as we are still looking good. I'm going to have to go back to neutral because Piastri is starting to get dropped a little bit by Hamilton, and we can't really have that. That's not acceptable. So hopefully we can kind of get involved. We may have let that slip a little bit too far back. They're still fighting. We're not out of this yet because those guys are. Probably I've got to slow that down because through those corners I'm getting a little bit motion sick. Let's go to the 16 times speed and just kind of keep an eye on the gaps, see how things look, because I don't think we're out of this race yet. I think, yes, Hamilton and Perez are going to pull away. There's a yellow flag in sector 1. What's that all about? Who has gone wide? Pierre Gasly's had a lock-up. I don't even know how far back Gasly is. Looks like he's quite far back because he was fighting with the second McLaren, which means he's probably near the back somewhere. That's how that tends to go, unfortunately, is he will be near the back somewhere if he is involved in that kind of fight. He's locked up and stayed ahead of the two Aston Martins, but that's not a huge surprise because the two Aston Martins have been utter crap. But, I thought he'd have lost those positions as well. Had to fight his way back through a little bit more. He is trying to catch up with Tsunoda though, so he should be fine. But first few soft tyre runners in the pits, which should be interesting for the later stage of the race. It's going to drop those guys back in danger of being lapped. That's why I didn't want to go on to either of the two-stop strategies that were showing, or the hardest medium strategy that were showing as well, because you just dropped too far back. Bottas has overtaken Porsche while I've been waffling. Let's see what's happening. He's just found himself in DRS range. Hopefully he was the only car that got through and we can stay in a fight here as well. That would be ideal. We might have to go back on board with Porsche because he should be able to fight his way back through. You'd think he's pretty good when he gets into a fight. The team are we're not devastated. Behave. We're doing okay. We are ninth, so we have lost a position to Russell as well, which is probably the bigger problem for us, if we're being completely honest. There's probably some tyre I can use for Porsche, but we'll keep it going for now. We're just going to stay in the fight. Porsche has lost a position to Alonso. He's going backwards. What's going on, Teo? What are you doing, buds? That's not the way. That's not the way we do things here at Williams. So we used to do things at Williams. We're not just dropping back. That's not okay. We need to keep fighting our way through. So let's speed that up. Stay in touch, Teo. You can do this. You're good enough to be able to stay in touch. Mainly, probably me giving you that much extra fuel is not helping tremendously. But you should be able to do something with the power. I mean, you've got more power than Alonso by virtue of the fact we're on the same engine, but I'm giving you, I assume, more fuel than he's getting. So we can't read a lot into that. I don't know, it's just very confusing. It's very, very confusing. We're 16 laps in. We should be heading towards a pit stop. There is finally some rubber going down the track, which will help. But, yeah, further ahead of the field, though, we should talk about further ahead of the field. Perez dropped 10 seconds behind the fight at the top. But I think maybe what we'll do is we'll have a moment where we just take a little gander at what's going on in the top fight, because that's going to be more interesting. There we go. And it's close. Verstappen has to be feeling a little bit like he's being hunted right now. Let's see what's going on tyres-wise. Sainz is doing very well to stay. Sainz could be a dark horse to win this race because he's staying close on the hards and he's going to go onto a faster set of tyres once all is said and done with the pit stops, which is something to keep an eye on. Sainz could have played an absolute tactical blinder here. Looking back at our cars though, our Piastri is very much burning through the mediums the way I expect him to. Porsche also burning through. We're going to have to come in a little bit earlier, I think, than the cars around us, which is a little bit concerning. And those guys ahead might be able to do a medium to soft. It's very possible they could do a medium soft. Sainz could very well be on a hard to soft, which is going to raise a lot of questions for us in terms of what we need to do. I mean, I don't need to develop the car to prevent that. We need to do more about our cooling, because the cooling, I think, is probably what's harming these tyres more than anything. But, you know, that is what it is, unfortunately. Let's see what we can do here. Verstappen in early. Verstappen in for a very, very early stop. That could be very, very telling for us. Very telling. I'm having a look around the outside Porsche on Bottas and Piastri will find his way through on Verstappen, you would assume. Let's have a little look. We've entered our pit window for our strategy for both cars. I think I'm going to give Porsche a little bit more tyre to use. I think we'll stay where we are with Piastri though, purely because I know Piastri is just incapable of looking after tyres. He doesn't have that ability, unfortunately, to look after his tyres properly. Whereas I feel like if I can give Porsche a little bit more to fight with, he can stay in touch with Bottas. You can see Alonso in that final point playing position. You can see Russell in that next point playing position. So he's not out of the fight yet. And if he gets himself back into the fight, then we could really be cooking here. And that's going to be what counts. Piastri is in a fight now with Verstappen, who has come out on fresher tyres, which is a real concern. I don't think Piastri can fight him per se, but he might just be able to cause enough of a nuisance to himself to do something with it. Let's switch him to defend on his ERS. Just because we are on a faster set of tyres, you have to imagine. Yeah, Verstappen's gone to hards, so hopefully we can do a little bit of a hold off. Someone is locked up, I don't know who. A safety car here would be immense. We've lost that position, which is not great. Doesn't tell me who's run wide yet. I have Ricardo locking up. Has that been anything dramatic, or is it just a minor lockup? It's quite a minor lockup. He didn't even get near the wall. So I would suggest we're probably not seeing a safety car off the back of that. Piastri has kind of lost the plot a little. He has managed to pass Hamilton, but he's lost Verstappen, which is unfortunate. Hopefully, though, he can stay at the DRS with Verstappen, and he can use that to pull himself away from Alonso, who is catching up. Porsche is going to come up with Hamilton behind him, significantly behind him, 7 seconds behind him, but he's going to catch that up quickly. Although Porsche really should be making some moves here, it's got to be said. I think we're going to try and do some overtaking on the other side of the hairpin, because he's got to be able to get past one of these cars, get himself at least in the fight, you would think, because he just can't be that far out of it for sure. So we're going to go into some DRS zones, we're going to deploy some ERS, we're going to hope for the absolute best here. Piastri is getting absolutely dropped like a stone by Verstappen. Although we are going to come out on better tyres very briefly, we're going to do a longer stint on them than the cars ahead of us. We're going to come out on better tyres, which could prove decisive here. I'm just trying to calculate in my head the gap between Piastri and Porsche to see if I've got space to double stack them. I might just do it. About 2.7, that's sort of the leader though, because I can figure that out better. Yeah, it's about 2.6, 2.7. Not quite the gap we need to get them double stacked and out, unfortunately. But that's not the worst thing. We'll give Porsche a chance to rest his tyres a little bit though, because he's going to need it. We are being dropped by Bottas, which is a concern, but we're going to go 2 more laps and then we're going to come in. I don't think that's going to be a huge concern. Porsche is still involved in the fight. Piastri involved in the fight. Optimal lap for our pit strategy, so we'll take advantage of that and bring him in. And I'm going to very quickly do a pause there because, you know, we're on in lap. Let's absolutely burn through some tyres, shall we? Because that's the way. I need to do another calculation on the gap. which is now 2.3, which is not going to be enough to get Pourchaire in there. So what we'll do is we'll give Pourchaire the minimal fuel and we'll harvest him, and then hopefully I should be able to get both cars in on a double stack without anybody losing much time. That's the ultimate goal here, so we'll do that, and hopefully this should get us to the end. Hopefully. Let's go on board with Piastri, because he is in a fight now with Russell and Alonso. I mean, this whole gap is kind of concertinaed together as the front four have sort of disappeared into the distance. Though Sainz is not pulling out a big gap on Perez, certainly not a pit stop gap. If we get a safety car, Sainz will win this race. I think that's fairly certain. I don't think we're going to get ourselves a pit stop out of this one. We're going to get ourselves a free pit stop out of this one. I'm going to put Pourchaire onto attack now, because that gap is definitely big enough to drop both cars into as they come around. And I think Piastri is having a good old push. He is actually pushing away from Russell somehow, which he wouldn't have said he'd have the tyres left to do, but apparently he does. We've only got one more corner to go through before we have to pit. I'm just trying to work out the math on where everyone's at tyres wise. I think we'll probably come out somewhere around 11th and 12th. That would be my guess. I can't profess to be an expert, it's got to be said, on doing the maths for pit stops. But I think 11th and 12th could be where we come out, and we should be strong enough to fight our way through the field, because I think a lot of those cars back there have got to pit again, which shouldn't be a huge deal. Oh, perfectly timed pit stop. You couldn't have done that better. There was no waiting, no messing, no queuing, no nonsense. All good, almost identical pit times. And we've come out in 12th and 15th, which is probably a bit further back than I thought we would. It's definitely a lot further back than I thought we would, but we're now going to have a good push through, which I think is going to be okay. Let's do a zoom. In fact, let's bring those tyres down before we utterly destroy them. That's a great idea, and we'll put Pourchaire onto a neutral ERS, because we're going to need that later in the race as we start to slice through the field. I say slice through the field more in hope than expectation, but slicing through the field is sort of the goal here. I don't think we've been holding anyone up necessarily behind us. I think there's a few more pit stops behind need to happen. Let's have a little look at tyres. Bottas needs to pit. Alonso needs to pit. Sainz and Perez will need to come in. Stroll and Magnussen will need to come in. Tsunoda. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positions we can realistically make up, which will put us 7th and 10th. I think 7th and 10th is okay for us as things go. We'll keep going though, see how things shake out. I think Sainz is going to be out there for the long haul. I'm starting to get slightly concerned that Pourchaire is probably not catching Norris as quick as I'd like. Piastri is in a fight and is probably going to need a little bit of a boost if he has to get himself through. Let's do an overtake. Now we've got ourselves a thing to fight for, because every free position we can, or every position we can get before people start coming in for pit stops is going to help us. That's absolutely certain. So we've got DRS now. We're coming up on Tsunoda. We are doing a little deploy on the ERS. Going to have a look into the hairpin, or try into the chicane. We're not. Sector 1, yellow flag, someone locked up. Don't know who it is. Don't much care unless they were behind or ahead of us. And they probably weren't. It was Guan Yu Zhou, who is ahead of us, but only because he'll get lapped soon enough. We've got the position into 11th past Tsunoda, and we're now on the back of Lance Stroll and Kevin Magnussen, although we have run out of ERS, which is not what we were looking for in any way, shape or form. But we do have a faster car than the guys ahead of us, so we should be able to at least make hay while the sun shines. In fact, I'm going to go on harvest here, because we're so much faster than those two cars ahead of us just on pure speed that this could be a great time to be saving some ERS. Pourchaire should be catching up to Lando Norris fairly soon. He's a second behind, he's not miles behind, but he should be in a position to look for a pass, which will be very helpful to us. But now is the time just to build some ERS. Know we're going to get towed along a little bit, just take advantage of the fact we're going to get total under DRS for a little while, especially because, as I said, there are pit stops to be made ahead of us. If we get a position out of this, fine, we're not suffering. Oh, there's been a crash and some cars are involved, and one of them is definitely ours. That's been a red flag, and I've got questions. Is Porsche out of the race, being one of them? Was that Piastri? Is whichever one of our drivers just got... that was Piastri. That was Piastri causing a red flag. God damn it. That's not the one. On the plus side, we're going to get ourselves at least our free pit stop. Yeah, Piastri is unfortunately out of the race, so that's all on Teo Porsche, which is not a thing we like to see. 21 laps to go. If I had a fresh set of softs, I could make that, but I don't, so I'm going to put a fresh set of mediums on. Any car parts issues? Nothing to worry about there. Okay, so red flag situation has happened. We are going to skip ourselves ahead shortly, one would imagine, to the restart. We're restarting off the grid, which is better for us. And I'm going to do a quick pause as soon as the lights go out, because I need to get him into attack mode, because he has more than enough tyres, you would think, to get... In fact, I say he's got more than enough tyres. He doesn't have more than enough tyres to get to him. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to do a lap of just absolute endless deployment. That's going to be our thing. Porsche dropping again like a stone. Come on, buddy, you can do this. You're better than that. Let's go quick catch up something. Porsche just getting absolutely torn away from at this point. That's definitely a concern. We're deep up on the fuel as well, which is also a worry. But 20 laps to go, we should be able to do something to gain some positions. I'm guessing everyone's gone for fresh mediums, except for Gasly, who's gone for fresh softs. Everyone else has gone for fresh mediums, which is going to be a help to us. I think I'm going to go and drop that down to standard, just to be on the safe side. And we'll keep zooming forward. Porsche is going to inevitably, you would think, make up some... I say inevitably, he's not even really catching anyone, which is not the result we were looking for. I'll be honest, I was hoping he'd fight his way back up into some points. Piastri being, of course, out of the race, not going to be a help to anyone, but Porsche also not really involved in this conversation. He's probably got way too much fuel on board, by about a third of a tank. That's not going to help our cause at all. We've got to get some fighting through down here. We're going to have to drop down to neutral on the ERS and just keep hoping he can find some positions as the fuel burns off. We are going to be in trouble. I think a safety car would be what we need to save us at this point, because we are heading into a window where I can get some softs on, which would give us at least enough of a speed advantage to be able to do something about the cars ahead of us. We've got Vettel and Stroll ahead now, Gasly right behind us, and we're not really in this fight at all. We're not. Was that just a poorly timed red flag for us? And can we put it down to being a poorly timed red flag? I don't know if we can, because this car is definitely better than the Alpha Tauris. I'd say it's definitely better than the McLarens and probably the Alpine in 10th, and definitely better than the Haas. So you've got a question, is Porsche performing? I have had this thought in my head before during previous races of, is Porsche good enough to be the lead or to be a Williams driver? And I'm starting to think the answer might be no, because his overtaking skills, he just makes a meal out of everything. Like, he shouldn't, okay, Vettel's got the experience, but he shouldn't be having this much trouble catching or passing Stroll and Vettel, I should say. He has, it disappoints me. I feel like if the roles were reversed here, Piastri would be well up into the top 10 by now. He'd be well up into the top 10 by now. And Porsche just doesn't overtake one. He's been sat in the same position now for 10 laps since the restart. And I'm starting to question whether it's a case of he doesn't have it. I'm going to go on harvest for a little while because he's not making up ground. He's not going to lose ground. He just doesn't have the ability to pass as well as you think. And then what I can do is I can really push for some places as we go through the last few laps. Because once we get past Vettel, nothing's out of reach for us. And that's what really gets me, is nothing is out of reach for us. Let's go full deploy. I thought we had a safety car then. That would have been an issue. Porsche now able to catch up. Gasly's had a lock up, which is definitely taking some pressure from us. And we just, come on, use the overtake button. That's what the overtake button is. Why are you so bad at the overtake button? It shouldn't be difficult. You just can't get past anyone. That's really your thing. You just can't pass people. And it really bothers me because I've given him a really good car and he just gets embarrassed every time he goes out on track. Now he's dropped behind Ricciardo, who shouldn't be in that position to be ahead of him, and he just won't be able to pass. He just doesn't seem to have the ability as a racing driver to get past other drivers. I know I'm speaking out loud a lot here, or thinking out loud a lot here, but I really do think Porsche might not be getting himself, as Alex Chan cut his head off temporarily. I just think I might have to get rid of Porsche at the end of the season. I really just think I might have to get rid of Porsche at the end of the season. I might have to bring in a better, more experienced driver, potentially an effective number one driver, which is something I never thought I'd do ahead of Piastri, but Piastri keeps crashing and Porsche can't overtake anyone. And that just leaves me with more questions than it does answers in terms of what are we doing here? What do we do? Where do we go for the future? How do I build a successful team if I've got one driver who cannot be trusted to capitalise on easy slam dunk situations? I mean, I'm looking at Sonoda dropping behind and thinking, is it too late in the race to drop into softs? It is too late to drop into softs. I'm not making that mistake again. But also thinking I've got a driver in Porsche who just doesn't really have the skills to get the job done. And do I keep him till the end of the season, or do I drop him and try and get someone else? I think I'll have a little look after the race and just see if there is, see what we've got in terms of options. I think what we're going to do is have a conversation. Feel free to comment in the comments below on this. Do we keep Porsche, or should we look at some other options? I'll show you what other options we could potentially have. Although I don't think it's going to be great options, but I think our best option is actually going to be Danny Rick, who we're about to pass with 3 laps to go. And we're about to pass. We haven't managed to make that move stick. We do need to make that move stick, ideally very, very quickly, and using the extra ERS to get ourselves back into contention with Stroll. You'd think Stroll should be easy pickings. Are we leaving this just too late? Am I doing something wrong by putting too much fuel in? I mean, I think had we not had the red flag, we'd have had plenty. We'd have had exactly the right amount to get to the end fully deploying, which is, of course, the gamble you take. Should I have put on less fuel, maybe? I think there's a lot we need to consider, a lot we need to work through here, because Porsche is, we should have picked up some points here. We should have picked up our point at least. We have been faster than Alonso and Bottas all weekend. We should have picked up some points there. And also, utterly unrelated to what I've been saying actually, but probably a look at the AI is needed in this game as well, because I'm looking at a 16, 17 second gap between Perez and Russell, and I'm thinking, I'd bring in Perez to go after the fastest lap point at this stage, but I guess they're also probably thinking he could overtake Sainz. He won't, but he could overtake Sainz. And Sainz, by the way, has got unlucky because he made his pit stop just before the red flag, and I think had he not pit before the red flag, I think he probably would have gone to the end and won the race, which is disappointing for him. I think I'm going to just kill these tyres because I've got no choice at this point, honestly. We just need to kill whatever is left on these tyres. Stroll and Vettel have done very well to keep their tyres in play, although considering they've not really gone at any great pace. That's probably why they've kept their tyres in play, but Porsche needs to be able to push now and get himself up past Stroll and Vettel, just for the sake of not being embarrassed. If I'm honest, that would be most of it. It's just not being embarrassed by the way he's performed today. I am aware Ricciardo is probably going to pass us because these tyres are not going to make it to the end in a decent condition, and Ricciardo can go full push and still make it with, tyres in optimal condition. Sort of disappointing, sort of worrying. We are losing touch with Stroll a little bit because of the tyre wear. It's not been my best race, but I still feel like I'm justified in saying that Porsche has let the side down a little bit. So we are going to have a little look in a second to see who is going to be available. I want to say Ricciardo, Vettel, Norris maybe. Norris should be doing better than he is. And I feel like with our car he probably score some points, but I'm also very aware that he's probably got quite a lot of time left on his McLaren contract. Gasly's not having the best of seasons, but that car's good enough to be scoring points because Bottas is doing it. Is there a case for bringing Bottas back to Williams as that experienced driver? Can we get an Alonso maybe? That's worth a thought as well. I know I've not called out the fact we're on the final lap yet, but it's largely immaterial because there's almost no chance of getting it. We'll go to overtake mode. There's almost no chance of getting anything out of this race at this point. I think it's safe to say there is no chance of getting anything out of this race. I mean, we're about to head to a DRS zone, so maybe we can get lucky. I doubt it, but maybe we can get lucky and steal an extra position. Not that there's any points for an extra position, but it'd be nice to feel like we came out fighting in this race a little bit towards the end, going into the final chicane round through the last DRS zone, ready for the rear wing to open. 4 tenths behind, 3 tenths behind. Can we close that gap? Maybe an audacious dive into that last hairpin. We probably could have got through had Stroll not gone to the inside and given up his position to Vettel. We have still got maybe a small opportunity in this DRS zone, but I very much doubt it. That is all she wrote. 14th for Porsche, and Piastri retiring from the race, which is not the one we were looking for, unfortunately. But, it's making hay while the sun shines and all that empty, flashy, wonderful result for the Williams driver. I think not. I'm not going to say that was a wonderful result for any of our drivers. Drivers-wise, though, in the championship, Leclerc still leads the way from Verstappen, Sainz in third, Hamilton, Perez, Gasly, Russell, Fernando Alonso, Norris, Bottas and Magnussen are the top 11 with points. And constructors-wise, it's just us, AlphaTauri and Aston Martin, having not scored a point yet, although Ferrari still lead the way in the constructors from Red Bull. Let's go forward, and it's going to be points to give out, maybe. Doesn't look like it. I need to get David Schumacher. I'm going to start running David Schumacher in Porsche's car, I think, in practice. Just because I don't know how much longer we're going to keep Théo Pourchaire around. And to be completely honest, I still think that's a justified response to the way he's been driving of late. It has been far from stellar. We have manufactured a new front wing. I think we already had front wing 3 on the car. Let's just check that whilst it's in front of me as a thing where we did have front wing 3 on the car. And I think we're okay in terms of development. There's no more development slots. We are going to get a new chassis before the next race, which will help. But I said we're going to have a look at drivers because Théo Pourchaire very much underperforming this season. I say underperforming this season, of course. If we look at his overall Williams career, he's been with us a year and a half. He hasn't won a race yet. Last season, he got 23 points and 0 podiums, which, if you compare his last season to Théo Pourchaire's, Pourchaire won a race last season and got nearly double the number of points, which makes me believe I'm not entirely out of line thinking it might be time to take a long, hard look at if we replace Porsche. Let's have a look, see who might be interested. We don't have any interest in the top four, that's to be expected. Valtteri Bottas could be open for negotiation, so we're going to give him a scout, find out what his contract terms look like. It's a good idea. Fernando Alonso also interested, so we will give him a look. And how much potential does Lando have? That's probably the big question. Much younger. Okay. Sorry, just having it. Is he open to negotiation? He is open to negotiation. So, let me know in the comments below. We have a four-way choice for you to make in the comments. Do we stick with Théo Pourchaire? Do we take Valtteri? Do we take Fernando? Or do we take Lando? Those, I think, are our three best options. And obviously, we could get Danny Rick. We could get Seb, but they are probably close to retirement, if not probably retiring in-game very soon. I know Valtteri is the same age as Danny Rick, but such is life. Otherwise, have a look at all our check-ins. The board they have high confidence. I don't know why. We're underperforming. In fact, before I forget, let's have a little look at the star, just to make sure there's no points to allocate here, because sometimes they pop up at random. It's not. I don't know. We've got the money to buy a driver out if we need to. We're not going to have a new driver in time for the Australian Grand Prix because we won't have scouted them yet. Facilities-wise, is there anything here we can put work into? I feel like we could upgrade the factory. That's a good idea because we're not going to be spending the money on new driver immediately. So we can upgrade the factory just to keep that tickety-boo. And we'll worry about the race simulator in due course. The helipad I can probably refurbish with the money I have left, so we'll do that. That should bring us nicely, I think, to the end of the episode. We've done a bunch of stuff. We've had another disappointment at the racetrack, but I feel like we're not lost yet. We're having some teething issues with the new car. I think once we get that new chassis in, will have a big improvement in the car in general. Suspension coming in straight afterwards as well, I think, is going to really help us. Let me show you the rank on grid. Rank on the grid. Yeah, I think we're probably going to be okay. I think. So, well, we'll be okay towards the back end of the season. Let's not say we're going to be okay, period. We'll be okay until the back end of the season. We just need to work out what we're doing about Théo Pourchaire. So, in the meantime, guys, thanks for watching. I have, as always, been Chasing Lamely. Do hit like, subscribe, ring the bell. Leave those comments below. Let me know what you think about what we should be doing with the driver situation. And until next time, keep safe, and I'll see you very soon. Have a good one.